All right, and then slideshow. Okay. All right. Oh, that doesn't look too bad. I was just fighting with this 5 minutes ago because the one app that I make it on, it doesn't always like the pictures. Yeah, anyways, you get it. AI is super cool, except for when it's not. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get going. I'm assuming that everything is okay. If you're just coming on, please let us know where you're coming in from. Um, Hi, Judy Duncan. Oh yeah, but from New Orleans. Shannon. Oh, Shannon. Hi. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna X out this and I'm gonna focus in. It's a little interesting time for a neurodiverse person like me, but we're gonna do our best. And okay, so welcome everybody. We're going to be talking about travel planning for our older adults and senior population. This is actually one of my favorite. I always say this every single time I do a masterclass because I just absolutely love accessible travel planning, obviously. But I love this one because this is actually a an area that travel planning can be not only super rewarding, but also lucrative. So I am going to go ahead and jump in. So yes, welcome to the world of accessible travel planning for seniors, a growing field that blends compassion, expertise, and thoughtful logistics. Together, we will explore how to create safe, joyful, and barrier-free travel experiences for older adults with diverse needs and abilities. All right. Who am I? My name is Karen. I'm an occupational therapist for the last 23 years, 23 and a half years, really. And I have a professional history. I was a traveling OT for most of my traditional OT career, which spanned actually 7 states. I've probably taken 40 to 50 contracts. I've probably set foot in well over 100 facilities and buildings and home health and all that kind of stuff. I've worked in almost every setting that you can. I've also had the pleasure of working in 4 different countries: the US, New Zealand in kind of a non-traditional sense, and then in Italy with the US military, and then now Germany working with military families once again. So I am also a person with differing abilities. I have neurodiversity. I was in a bad car accident when I was 18 years old, which was just last year. No, just kidding. It was 30 years ago. And from that, I have a TBI that was actually late diagnosed because in the 90s, it just wasn't a thing. If you knew where you were and all that kind of stuff, it was not a bad thing. But I pretty much lost half the right side of my face. And I lost my right eye. I hit the steering wheel very hard, and I've had to date 25 surgeries. I also broke and busted both of my legs. So I have visible differing abilities. I have a facial difference, which carries its own sort of stigmas and special kinds of differing abilities just from how society interprets. We do so much of interpreting visually people's facial expressions and all that kind of stuff. So and then I also have my learning, my vision, also like just sensory sensitivities that developed from different, I have extreme sound sensitivity, light sensitivity. So my neurodiversity has also made me be an extremely, uh, well, I guess done research in some form my whole life for, um, accessible travel. And, of course, obviously had the fortune to travel to now, I think it's 40, I think I just hit 46 states or countries because I went to Turkey in April, and I've hit 47 states with, everyone wants to know the three that I haven't done: Alaska, um, Delaware, and South Carolina. So if you're in one of those, contact me later and I'll come sleep on your couch and say I've been there. So I have I got my bachelor's actually when I was in uh for my undergrad before it was a master's, and now they're, transitioning OT to a doctorate, but I think they've kind of backtracked that. And I have um, I went back, like maybe not the brightest person in the world, but I went back to get my doctorate in 2019. Halfway through, COVID happened, and I actually had to leave my job that I was getting the doctorate for with the VA and transitioned. I decided to finish it and then transition into business ownership, working remotely, and then about a year and a half ago, I got the opportunity to come out here and work. So I am but in 2022, I found the travel business, and I was actually wanting to get totally away from healthcare, OT, everything. I got extremely jaded. I did successfully get my doctorate in the end of 2021, and like this came along in spring of 2022, and I was honestly like, I just want to go plan trips for people and go on cruises and travel myself and not have to worry about it anymore. The world was kind of opening back up, and then I started having conversations, and I had conversations because we have an opportunity to help other people start their business and their travel business. And the people I was having my conversations with were in the disability community somehow, or, largely in the rehab um, professional space, or people who had their own family members or themselves dealing with differing ability. And so it just kind of took off from there. Accessible Travel Planners started as a very grassroots type of thing and went into, it became just this uh, snowball at some point when a couple of people turned into, we just all started having conversations. And to date, I have helped over 900 people start their travel business. And I have almost 600 people of those still active on my team as of today. And in my organization, we launched Accessible Travel Planners and our flagship course last year in Vegas. We do a team retreat in Vegas every year. And then it's just kind of been going crazy ever since for the last 2 years. So we've grown by leaps and bounds, and we're just at the beginning because now we're globally launching so that we can help with accessible travel all over the world, help get travel agents and travel professionals trained up. And you'll see in a little bit that we have um, a new course and a new opportunity and a couple of different pathways for people, as we recognize that not everybody wants to quite at the point where they want to start a business, but they want to have this knowledge and this leverage and this flexibility. So um, let's see, did I forget anything? Oh, yes, I have a service dog named Oscar. Most people have seen, if you're on Facebook or have talked to me more than 12 seconds, I probably mentioned him, or you probably know him in one way or another. He's an anxiety and PTSD service dog. So he moved here to Germany with me and now gets to live his best life traveling to more places than probably most humans. So, and I have had the pleasure of hosting two OTD students, entry-level OTD students in their capstone projects. However, the lovely ACOT just changed their policies and their requirements for the capstone project, and we will probably no longer be able to host them in the same way, but we're still supporting students and new grads in some different ways that I might talk about if I have time at the end. Still developing, many things are in the works. Okay, so all right, so our learning objectives. By the end of this masterclass, you will be able to understand the unique needs of senior travelers with differing abilities, or even if they don't, but they probably all do, of some sort. Identify the key components of accessible travel planning, explore the pathways to become involved in accessible travel planning, choose between becoming your own accessible travel planner or a certified ATP, or using an ATP, and discover resources and training to launch or grow your own travelpreneurship business. Okay, so let me just get a couple. Saw these comments going off, so I wanted to look real quick. Okay, good. Miami, Oklahoma. Okay. Okay. Yay. Okay. Avis, Colorado. Wow. I don't even know if I know where that is, and I'm from Colorado. Okay. All right. All right. So hopefully that's just you. Okay. Okay, good. All right. Yeah. Please, someone who has my phone number, text me if I start to cut out or lose you guys at all. Okay, here we go. Okay, so uh understanding seniors travelers needs, and this is we like to refer to this um as fit travel, which is flexible, independent travel. Like I don't want to just send seniors and their families on trips. We want to make sure that they're, if they don't want to go on a cruise, because everyone thinks, oh, old people will just go on cruises. And some people love to cruise, and there's nothing wrong with that, but some people don't. I've taken my dad and older friends and family members onto trips all throughout the world, honestly. And um, you know, everybody has kind of this individual idea of what travel is. But there are several things that you need to consider when you're helping these people plan. And, of course, obviously there's the physical considerations, which is limited mobility. It could be wheelchairs, walkers, canes, arthritis, just limited endurance, all that kind of stuff. And with that and the medical complexities and requirements might be some sort of chronic condition, like I said, arthritis, Parkinson's. There's a lot of unique things that go into someone who's had a stroke or has a neurological or even hip replacements, back surgeries, orthopedic, musculoskeletal, cognitive. Obviously, people might be hard of hearing, vision loss, all different kinds of medical complexities, diabetes, heart disease, all this things. If they're on, we if you've ever done home health, you go and help people like medical management, and they're on 27 medications, and so we need to make sure that first of all that the trip that they want to take is a possible trip. Like we're not about dashing dreams, but we are about being realistic and knowing that, if a 97-year-old wants to go on an African safari, like but is blind, hard of hearing, visually impaired, and all those other kind of things that it may not be the best thing, but we can maybe find something closer to home that might be similar. Okay, so that's always a big part is this trip possible? And we have like there's the cognitive factors may not be like these. What I always tell people is you may not understand what your accessibility needs are, and I just assume that every single trip I plan, because I don't just plan accessible travel trips. Actually, most of the trips I plan, it's come to me from friends or family in some sort of way. I have two different families traveling through Europe right now that I help them plan, and in one I just assumed there was no accessible need, and I ended up they like right before they left, they're like, well, some of this might be a bit much because it was like teenagers plus their parents in their 40s, right? So some of this might be a little bit much because one has POTS and one has a, you know, gluten intolerance. And I'm like, oh, you're going to Italy. That's great. Like that kind of stuff. So you want to always make sure that you're being thorough with, um, your, um, questionnaires and asking them and all that kind of stuff, and making sure that even if you don't think there is a accessible travel need, that you have um especially when seniors are involved, there might be mild cognitive impairment that like when you talk to the wife, she's like, yeah, well, he's sundown sometimes and he's on this medication and all that kind of stuff. So that's really important. We've seen people like getting lost on cruise ships, all that kind of stuff because they just snuck out. And so there's all this kind of, it's the middle of the night, they were confused and were found wandering around. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into, accessible travel planning in general, but definitely for when you talk about being senior travel planning on top of that. So some of the things that we consider is the like ideal climate. We don't want to send like Italy is really hot right now too. So they were talking to, this family said, oh, well, one of our kids has POTS, and I'm like, that's like, like, um, blood pressure stuff, it's like, there's a lot of regulation issues with that. And so, I've had heat exhaustion in Europe more times than I care to count. And I don't think I ever hardly did. And I lived in the desert, right, in the US, but we have air conditioning. And, Ted Lasso says it's a privilege, not a right here in Europe. And you're in a 500-year-old building sometimes, and the air conditioning is, you know, not up to what we're used to maybe in the US. So, and moderate temperatures, I have had people request to go to, Sedona in July, or, Iceland in December. It's just like you gotta consider, is this going to be something ideal for this person, knowing that they may not have issues with regulating their temperature, or that can throw them off. Even a healthy younger person. I was younger when I had my issues, but in my heat exhaustion, but it was over 100 degrees in Italy. I was out in the sun for prolonged amounts of time. And so you don't want to create an experience that's, you really awesomely planned it, but then um, they had to stay inside the whole time because they kept getting heat exhaustion. So, obviously moderate temperatures reduce health risks. Also, with seniors, a lot of times you can have them travel in the off seasons. So April, May, September, October, really great months to come to Europe, because there's far less people and it's a better price, and they don't have to operate within the school schedule a lot of times, and they won't, burst into flames in Greece or something. So, yeah, can exacerbate other health conditions. Consider destinations with mild seasons and low humidity. That's another thing. Obviously, hello, people in the South right now, right? It's miserable. Infrastructure. You want to make sure that you are aware of their public transport. Is it a modern, developed area that you have confirmed accessibility in? Obviously, there's more developed countries are going to have ramps, elevators, and accessible bathrooms. That's why I joke and call Italy like a second world country, because even the trains, sometimes you're not going to have, like you're met with a set of stairs. And I've seen people be pushed up the stairs with their walker behind them, and people are pushing them up the stairs of the train to get them on the train. So you always want to think about that. So some top destinations. I haven't confirmed all of these, but it sounds right. I've heard really great things about the accessibility in Tokyo, Japan, Barcelona, Sydney, Vancouver, Canada, and of course, most places. Obviously, Hawaii is a good option because there is the ADA, and other parts of the U.S. They know that we're going to. Sorry, my dad's calling me. Um, we know that we're going to have, hold on one second. Oops. Okay. Can you guys see, are you guys seeing the right thing again? I'm going to stop sharing just for a second, just to make sure I'm still, okay. All right. Guess I should put it on. Uh, Let me just respond to him real quick, because he's going to keep calling me. Okay. So let me get that back. Why can't I get this back? Oh dear. Sorry, guys. in there with me for a second. Mm, 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 mm. Okay. Okay, thanks, Shelly. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, life happens. At least a bird hasn't smashed into the window yet this month. That would be really unlikely to have it happen again, but yeah, we'll just roll with it. Um, okay. All right, I should be back. Slideshow. Whew. No one ever calls me except for right now, apparently. Okay, so yeah, anywhere in the US, obviously is going to be a better choice, although I see it all the time where, okay, it's back. Okay, perfect. Where there's, uh, this is why we'll talk about this later. We confirm accessibility, with everyone uh, before they go and we have an accessible travel planning trip. That's big because I mean, different people can tell you that, it might say accessible uh, on the website or wherever they're booking, but sometimes it's just a tub with grab bars and not a walk-in or roll-in like it says. I mean, we find it all the time. So crafting flexible and fun itineraries. So this is kind of what I was talking about before. We assess clients' needs, conduct thorough intake about mobility, health, and interests, create detailed client profiles, and determine best options for each individual. So this is obviously hugely important. And if you're in rehab or healthcare in general, or maybe even teaching and stuff like that, you have probably done this for years and years and years, where you're providing individualized client-centered care, and travel planning to make sure that you're getting all aspects of what they got going on. Um, Designing balance days. Of course, I see it all the time, especially with Europe travel. People are going to 9 cities in 10 days and staying in a different place every night. And obviously, one of the advantages of booking for seniors many times is that they have a more flexible schedule and we can, trying to see it all in one trip is never really advisable. Um, but uh, sometimes people insist on it and we have to show them the pros and cons of doing that and let them choose from there. Um, and then we incorporate flexibility, offer alternatives, make sure that things are refundable or changeable as much as possible for whatever we're planning for them. And then we verify accessibility always. I contact every single, you know, make sure that all the hotels are accessible and in the ways that they say they are. Obviously, that's a huge thing. That's something that I make sure that my people who become certified as accessible travel planners have incorporated into um, their options. So, or into their travel planning when they do their travel planning to become certified. Okay, so we also want to look at logistics and safety, emergency protocols, detailed medical contacts, like you want to know where the hospitals are, emergent evacuation plans, always provide travel insurance. We uh, 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 a requirement of working with us in accessible travel planning is that you do book travel insurance. so that if the unexpected happens, we insure everything else. And I'm amazed at the number of people that do not want to insure their trips. I've used it over and over again. I just had to get reimbursed $4,000 because while I was in Turkey, I had to go to the hospital because that's kind of how Karen rolls. So, but I knew that I was going to get reimbursed for that. And so I was just allowed myself to get the care and not worry about it too much. Um, so, yes, we always do health insurance, accessible accommodations, ground floor rooms, grab bars, whatever the person needs. There's usually visual impaired hearing accessible rooms. Um, so all that kind of stuff. Make sure that you have the level of accessibility that your client needs, that or your family member or whoever you're planning for. Obviously, transportation planning, the airports, airlines, buses, transfers, all that kind of stuff um, is a huge issue and needs to be considered. If they need special help anywhere, there's Amtrak, there's Uber has the wheelchair accessible vans now. You need to make sure it's all available in that area. So there's kind of what I'm telling you. There's a lot involved in this, and so we um, we want to do our best to create peace of mind and make sure that we have thought of all the things that normal, regular people may not think of, uh, and even some additional things that we like to pride ourselves on. So, we always have effective client communication. We don't ever want to assume that we know the kind of trip or what their goals and desires are with travel because it's a deeply personal thing. Active listening, obviously, like again, if you're in healthcare, you're well versed at this, or you should be. Hopefully, you are. Um, Clear documentation. You want to make sure that you're communicating with them in the way that they can receive. So a lot of times, even having things printed out and mailed to them if necessary, or and as we kind of go along on this planet more and more, like my parents are pretty, they're in their mid 70s and they're pretty travel savvy, and we've got we've got some CATPs on our team that are in their 60s and 70s, and I don't think we have any in their 80s, but we run the gamut too. So you just make sure you understand how they communicate, because if they're overseas, they may need to get an eSIM, they may need to have some sort of communication way to communicate and call, depending on who they're going with and all that kind of stuff. And then of course you want to include the family. Oftentimes people might be, I've booked 3-week cruises for people in Europe that were in their 80s that had lots of needs, and they went on their own and everything was fine. But you want to make sure that, is the family going? Are they included? Can they contact you to be like, hey, by the way, mom sometimes forgets her medicine at night, and then, her blood pressure goes up, or whatever the case may be. And then of course, while they're on the trip, you do regular check-ins, before, during, and after, really. And so okay, so here's a couple spotlight. I wanted to spotlight some of my people that are making waves, especially in senior travel. So Kim Zook is the first one. She's a physical therapy professional as well as a certified accessible travel planner. I think she might be on this call. She's actually a really avid accessible travel planner. She does a lot of stuff for sports teams and whatever, but she also has a lot of experience with helping people, especially with their mobility differences, booking trips for people who are full max transfers in wheelchairs and stuff like that. So she's doing a lot of good work in that space. And then my friend Dawn, who I have actually met several times because she's come to a lot of our team events, and um, a dear friend of mine, a fellow OT, and has extensive experience as a geriatric OT. And she combines those skills to create flexible and fun trips for seniors and other populations. Uh, and then Cindy Larson, who is out there, one of those Arizona people that is on this call. She is another OT professional, and certified accessible travel planner, and she's actually, I just learned this. Her mom was an OT, and so she's a second generation OT, and she likes to leverage her knowledge and experience from the home-based realm, and I know she's worked in all of the, in all the settings, to help create unforgettable journeys for seniors and others. So these are just three of my close to 100 people that are now working on their certification and taking this to the next level. So wanted to say thank you to those, and there's many more, but I only have time to talk about three. Okay, so a senior fit focused travel biz is a win-win. And here's why. Obviously, we've talked about a lot of this. It's a massive and growing market. With aging populations worldwide, there is a surging demand for travel experiences that accommodate seniors' mobility, medical, and sensory needs. I mean, the boomers are like piecing out left and right, right? I mean, they have been for years. They're a huge generation. So I think on the baby boomers, because you know why. And so they are, and they're retiring probably much better off than a lot of us will, unless you start a travel business and make a plan. So there's just, it's a huge market. There's a huge need. I would guess that most of our accessible travel planning, except for, we do a lot of work with neurodivergent and special needs kiddos, and their families, but oftentimes grandparents are going along. Like I have 11 people going through Italy right now, and there is four generations in there. So three at least. So, yeah, it's definitely, there's a massive market if you want to focus on senior or uh, intergenerational travel really at this point. So it's also really fulfilling. Like my seniors are almost always the most fun people to work with. They've got time, they're excited, they've traveled before, they need help, they're open to it. They don't sit there and, have you go research a bunch of stuff and then go book it for $5 cheaper. Sometimes they do, but most of them, they're used to using travel agents and travel professionals, and they want to have the end-to-end feature. It's definitely obviously a flexible business model where we are remote travel planners that you can work it as little as much as you want to. Some people are doing it full time. Some people are doing it as a side hustle, and some people are doing it just to get the personal benefits and fully leverage travel, um, the travel industry, right? Because they're avid travelers. They're maybe looking at retiring in the next 5 to 10 years. They've got parents, they've got kids, they've got grandkids. Like there's again, people are traveling all together these days, and travel is back. It's growing. It's a huge industry, and it's fun. So, and then also with the seniors, this is probably one of the highest earning potential for being a travel agent with a specialization in senior travel and accessible travel. Like I said before. Okay, so your ATP pathways. You can, if you're on this call, when I first started doing these master classes, it was all for travel professionals to become certified. But we are now, because we are launching our new different pathways, and we're getting further and further down the road with our services and whatever, we are now inviting all walks of people, whether you need to be connected with a certified accessible travel planner or an expert in getting help with your travel or your family's travel, or you can become your own travel planner, or you can start your own travel business like we talked about. So really the people have different levels that why they're interested in this. And a lot of times the people who want to have help planning their trips, maybe not a senior citizen every time, but a lot of people who are moms of kiddos with a special need or something like that, they want to travel and they want to be able to do it affordably and with the max, like a fully loaded vehicle that helps them travel better. They can make money back on their travel. They can help other families travel. So, but we have that, and people do it for different reasons. Some just want to do for friends and family and personal. And then other people are interested in starting their business and making it a full-time endeavor. within, 3 to 5 to 7 to 10 years, which is basically where I'm at. I should be fully out of traditional JOBs by the end of the year, if not sooner. So that has been, I've been in the business just a little bit over 3 years. So there's definitely whatever you're thinking you need, we definitely have a pathway for you. Um, so special offerings that I'm kind of I'm kind of releasing on this call. I was going to do it a couple months ago, but or on this class, I should say, but life has happened. Some technical things have gotten in the way. But what is ready to go now is our new course, which is the Accessible Journeys course. That is a spin-off from the Specialized and Accessible Travel Planning course. It is for the individuals, the caregivers, the loved ones, the health professionals that may surround someone with an accessible need of all ages. Really, I'm kind of proud of it. It took a while, but we're getting it together. And so that is now available for people who just may not be ready to start a business. And I am going to give you guys an opportunity to get half off on it, since you are a part of this call, if that's what you want to do, instead of launching your own accessible travel planning business. So obviously with the global launch, um, we've got into where if you're already a travel professional, you can partner with us. It used to be exclusive to my team and those who had partnered with the same host agency I'm partnered with, but you can now, if you're already a travel professional, of course, if you're not, we want to make sure that we offer you our startup, because we do have a startup process to just help you get your regular travel business set up, because obviously this is a travel professional's business with, um, like a travel agent business and a travel business in general, that then you specialize in accessible travel planning. And we're trying to make that more clear. Like, none of us only book accessible travel, because like I said before, people don't have a good understanding that they have accessibility needs a lot of times. And plus, you don't want to leave money on the table when your cousin wants to take her entire family to Disney World for 2 weeks, and or grandma wants to go on a cruise, or whatever the case may be. Um so anyways, let's see. And then some other things that we're getting more formal about planning is finally doing traveling together in an accessible travel way, uh, through accessible travel planners, Cont Ed on cruises. Some of this stuff is launching in 2026, and I'm starting to put the wheels in motion for that. And also just group travel, if we can handle it. Like, if we have families that have kiddos with autism, or a bunch of senior citizens that want to go on a trip together, we're going to try to get some of that together. I also want to do specific trips for the accessible travel planners themselves, so where we can all travel together, do recon, develop different itineraries for people in different places. So there's a lot of fun stuff coming. And then, of course, the project that I have been working on that will be launching soon, of course, there's always red tape, is our new nonprofit that will go alongside accessible travel planners. So we'll do everything from making travel cheaper for those who have life-threatening conditions, or kind of like Make-A-Wish for any age. But you also don't have to be end of life. It can be a bucket trip that you can take at any time if you're dealing with an accessible need, or and we'll help you offset the cost of that, as well as mission travel has always been a huge part of my life, and I love it. And so we are also going to be taking, for a bunch of teachers and healthcare workers, and moms, and people that just want to do good in the world. We're just gonna go do it together, and then maybe have a bougie vacation thereafter. Because a lot of the places that you can have bougie vacations also have a lot of needs. So Mexico, the Caribbean, all that kind of stuff. So we have a lot of fun stuff coming. Um, And so that is it. I have a form that I'm going to put in the